Seller Central versus Vendor Central, the advantages and disadvantages of the two different programs. So these are two different ways to sell your product on Amazon, and we'll kind of dive right into just a quick overview of what each program is all about.
Sounds great.
All right, first thing is, okay, what is Seller Central? All right, Seller Central is a way for you to sell your product directly to consumers through the Amazon selling platform. It's you basically are considered a third-party or marketplace seller, and you can choose to either be an individual seller or a pro seller. The difference between the accounts are that if you're an individual seller, you basically are limited to some of the programs and features available in Seller Central, as well as some categories are not available to you. You also are charged a slightly extra. You're charged an extra $1 per order whenever you sell a product, whereas a pro seller, you're paying $40 a month, but you're waived that extra fee and you get access to a lot of the extra programs like advertising your product on Amazon, being able to use the FBA program, etc. With Seller Central, you have two different fulfillment options. You can either use self-fulfillment, which is fulfillment by merchants. We refer to this as FBM. And you'll notice that when you look at a listing, if you see just underneath the product name and title, it says that this product is sold by the third-party seller name and fulfilled by Amazon. I'm sorry, that's I swapped these two. my apologies. The other option is FBA. It would normally say ships from and sold by third-party seller name if it's FBM, and if it's Amazon fulfillment, which is called the Amazon FBA program, then it says sold by seller and fulfilled by Amazon.
Hey, Tim, I updated the power or the Google slide to reflect that. I don't know if you can refresh.
I don't know if I can refresh that easily. Perhaps.
It's not reflecting my change there.
Well, we'll continue on. It'll be... did.
The bullet's just off.
That's okay.
All right, if you refresh again, that's good. Anyway, yes, so the self-fulfillment is sold by a third party. It's always going to be sold by a third party because you're the third party selling on Amazon. Mm-hmm. But the FBM means you are sending it from your warehouse, your location, your office, whatever, and the FBA means you're sending all your product into the Amazon warehouses, and they are providing the fulfillment. And one important distinction to understand is that FBA from the seller side means that the customer is going to see that product available via Amazon Prime. So that's a very important thing to understand. FBA is the seller side of Amazon Prime, which gives those customers 2 days free shipping, 1 day free shipping depending on what market they're in, and a whole bunch of other advantages. So if you want your product available via Prime, in most cases you have to use the FBA system.
Excellent points. There is also a third option, and I didn't put in here just because it's a relatively new option, which is called Seller Fulfilled Prime. And that's where if you have a really good track record of fulfilling products yourself, and and Amazon sees that, what they will do is they'll invite you to be able to actually fulfill the products. And so long as you use the right shipping methods and get the product to the customer within 2 days, then you'll be able to have that Prime logo next to your product, even though you fulfill it yourself. But that's an invite-only program at this point in time. The next thing I had up here is multi-channel fulfillment. If you do take advantage of the FBA program and you have all this inventory at Amazon warehouses throughout the country, you can actually use that inventory to fulfill orders outside of Amazon. So if you sell on your own website, you sell on eBay or Jet or any one of these other programs where you have to fulfill the orders, you can actually submit what's called a multi-channel fulfillment order to Amazon, and Amazon will dispatch that that product out to the customer. The one thing to keep in mind is that the product packaging will be branded Amazon, which may be a problem for some people, but it certainly takes a lot of the guesswork over, again, trying to have a fulfillment process in place at your location. Another one of the things that you get with Seller Central is that because you sell directly to consumers, you get to set your own prices, and that's an important point, especially for later on. But yeah, that's pretty much just an overview of what the Seller program is all about. We've gone over in a lot more depth about a lot of the different programs, like the FBA program and the fee structure of Seller Central. But was there anything anyone wanted to add before I moved on to going over the vendor central program?
Yeah, what does it say next to the seller fulfilled prime? It still says ships and sold by third party, or it says sold by and fulfilled by Amazon?
That is a good question. I don't know. I will have to look into that.
Okay.
The one point that I wanted to bring up regarding the multi-channel fulfillment is just such a cool program if you sell on other platforms, whether it be eBay, whether it be Buy.com, which is now as Rakuten. If you sell on your own website, you sell through any other third-party place that exists anywhere. If you get that order, you don't need to necessarily do all that packing and shipping yourself from your location. When you're in one of those, selling through one of those channels, you can actually, if you get an order directly from a customer outside of Amazon, and all your product is in the FBA system in Amazon's warehouse, you simply just notify them, hey, I get a customer over there that wants one of these, please send it. And you don't pay the same percentage and fees. You do pay some sort of fee, but then that box will be dispatched from your inventory in the Amazon warehouse to the customer, albeit with Amazon tape on it, but at least you don't have to do all that packing, shipping, labeling, copying, pasting, and all the customer data, dropping it off at the post office, UPS, whatever. You don't need to do any of that. You have your own personal fulfillment center through Amazon. You simply type in the data. There's even integration that can be done in some of these different circumstances, and then that just goes. That's another advantage of Seller Central I wanted to make a point on.
Very good points. And just to kind of just a little bit more detail on the multi-channel fees, the fulfillment costs are a little bit higher. But you don't pay that 15% or whatever the percent referral fee is for your particular category. So, it certainly can be less expensive in the long run, and in most cases it is.
So I also wanted to expand on the seller sets the prices piece, and that's the one big point of frustration, and I'm sure we're going to get into that in a little bit more detail throughout this site, but that's a huge, huge issue with a lot of folks that we work with. They don't understand, a lot of folks that we work with that are in the Vendor Central system don't understand that there is even a Seller Central side where they can set the prices, get the retail profit margin, and control their own destiny with what they're charging for their products. So that's a very important point. But Tim, please continue on to our next slide.
Sounds good. All right. So what is Vendor Central then? Vendor Central is where you sell your product to Amazon, and then Amazon sells to the consumer. You are considered then a first-party seller or a first-party vendor. It's only available to manufacturers and distributors, and all the products are fulfilled by Amazon. And the way that you can tell that a product is sold and everything is being done by Amazon, and that the person that the manufacturer is part of the Vendor Central program, is that it says ships from and sold by Amazon.
So there's almost a layer of obfuscation, so to speak, where the person buying the product doesn't know that you have this relationship with Amazon. They don't see anything about your company name. They just assume that, oh, well, Amazon's selling me this thing. It's just like when you go into Walmart, you pick up a product off the shelf. You don't have any special tag that says, oh, well, this is from this particular manufacturer. Obviously, on the packaging or whatever, it'll say where it's from, but the customer doesn't realize that there is no direct relationship between the customer and the vendor or the manufacturer rather.
Very good points. Part of the vendor program, you also get access to vendor-only programs and tools. A few examples of that are Amazon Marketing Services, Amazon's Vine program, the Subscribe and Save program, which also kind of includes that Prime Pantry, which is something that's relatively new to the Amazon platform. And then you also get access to be able to create what's called A+ content, which we'll go into more details in a little bit. But it helps make more rich, more enhanced listings. With Vendor Central, Amazon sets the prices. You can certainly tell Amazon what your MSRP is, and they pay you a cost based on what you say your costs are. And then in the ultimate end of it, Amazon will actually set the price that the product sells for. And lastly, Amazon Vendor Central is an invite-only program.
I want to go back to that Amazon set prices for just one moment.
Mm-hmm.
The agreements that different Vendor Central manufacturers get can be very, very different from one another. We are working with a particular client now where Amazon pays them 7% under MSRP, which is a very rare agreement that this particular manufacturer was able to get with Amazon, which is phenomenal. I mean, how wonderful is that? Somebody buying your product in bulk at 7% under MSRP. That's unheard of in the world of folks that are buying from manufacturers and distributors. However, this comes with a flip side, which is, and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit more. I'm looking at the pros and cons right now on the next page, Tim, and you can go ahead and flip to that. But one of the things that is a con is that just because they bought all this inventory at that particular amount, if they aren't able to move that inventory and they have to discount it, that can come back to you and off the balance of what they pay you. So just because they're buying it at that amount doesn't mean it's actually going to sell, and that won't come back to haunt you at some period in time. So again, the Vendor Central framework doesn't allow you as much finite control of what you want to sell. If you get a good deal, it might not actually be as good of a deal as you think it might be. So there are some hidden items there to think about.
Absolutely. All right. So what are the exact pros and cons of using Vendor Central? So the pros, a lot of people put trust in the fact that Amazon is actually selling the product directly to the consumer. I have heard of cases where people just see that it's not sold by Amazon, it's sold by a third-party seller, and they just don't want to buy from them. But our experience tells us that a lot of people trust the Prime logo a lot more than seeing that sold by Amazon. A lot of people associate that Prime logo, which means that that they're getting the product from Amazon directly, which is in most cases is what happens. But there is a lot more consumer trust with buying products directly from Amazon.
I want to expand on that just for a second here. That Prime logo is something that a lot of Vendor Central manufacturers don't understand. You can get that through Seller Central by using the FBA program. So just because you're transitioned from Vendor Central to Seller Central doesn't mean you lose that Prime stamp, because you can still have it on the other side. And we've talked with so many folks that don't get that that's a possibility. So I want to make sure we reiterate that point.
Absolutely. The other pro that you get with Vendor Central, as I talked about before, is the enhanced A+ content. And that includes being able to create HTML content on a page. You can add photos with callouts and columns and all sorts of extra items on there. Comparison charts, bullet points, and you can even add videos into pages under the Vendor Central A+ content, which you can't do under the Seller program, the Seller Central.
So with that HTML content piece, it actually renders out as HTML content. It used to be you actually had to know how to do that HTML programming, but now they actually have a drag and drop interface that allows that to be much easier. So you can drag and drop the pictures and the text on there, and it renders out on the actual Amazon page as additional info. I'm working on pulling up see if I can find a quick example here of a A+ content page. But another thing to understand that goes along with this A+ content is you pay for that extra feature. So it's not necessarily included. They do have some promotions from time to time where they'll say, oh, you get so much free A+ content if you spend time doing it from this date to this date, and you put it in there. There's also the distinction that's important to know where, depending on whether you do it yourself or you pay them to do it, you can the cost that you pay is different. So if you do it yourself, it's a little less, and if you have them do it, it's a little bit more. You might be thinking to yourself, well, why would I have to pay to do it myself? That's just the way it is. And if you have them do it for you, you might not get exactly what you were hoping for as the end result. So we've definitely worked with folks that are disappointed with the end result that Amazon did when they provided them the information to do the A+ content for them. And then getting that control back of your A+ content so you can actually do it yourself to fix the things that you'd like to fix in a fast way, because working with them to get that A+ content, there is no person to call in the A+ content department. You have to work through the case system, and it can be slow. So if you have total control of your A+ pages yourself, you're able to customize that content on the fly and update that as you wish. The cost is a little bit lower, and that's an important distinction to know about. Tim, you have an example here to show us, don't you?
Yes, I in fact do. So here is a product page for a Logitech mouse. You can see just underneath the mouse here, we actually have a video that you can play. In fact, you can see it's just like a normal video. You can actually hear it, everything. The other thing that you get is when you scroll down the page, compare similar items. I think this is actually an Amazon generated section right here, but the best part is right down here where it says from the manufacturer. So you have your regular product description, but then you have the product description from the manufacturer. You can see at the top here they've made like a really big banner ad right at the top here that just tells you what the product is. You have a bunch of images where you can view the larger version of the image. In fact, that's a really high quality image that it links to. You have like a highlight section over on the right. You have a bunch of columns here that tell you all the different key features. Shows you what's inside the box. And all this stuff is basically only available if you have access to the A+ content.
After looking at that page, I think I want that mouse.
So,
and that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to help further entice the user that's looking at the page that decides to scroll down to look at that stuff, to help increase the conversion rate on this page, meaning conversion from visitor of the page to buyer. And that's what it's meant to do. But I want to make another very clear point, and that is you don't need A+ content to do really, really well on Amazon. We have clients that have well-optimized pages with no A+ content whatsoever that are doing this one client of ours is going to close out about $7 million this year, and they have 0 A+ content pages. And we've worked with folks that are under $1 million. They're like, oh, I got to get all these A+ content pages done. That's not what I would consider a priority. I would consider priority doing really good listing optimization of all the stuff at the top before you start getting down there. So a lot of people kind of get obsessed with the videos that are on the left there. I would rather have a lot of great pictures and a really good description, and you can get a lot more traction with that at no cost than going through all this A+ stuff. So don't look at it as necessarily a priority. It is cool, the extra things that you can do, but it doesn't mean that it's going to result in a whole bunch of extra ROI.
And you can even see, except for the videos, there's only one picture in the top section here that shows the product. I would personally like to see a lot more pictures of the mouse itself, the mouse in use,
Mouse in the box.
lifestyle photos. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe see,
The box.
Yeah, the box. Yeah, absolutely. So, there's just, a lot of things that you can still do, like Paul said, where you can still get a great looking listing without that A+ content. So, because most people are only looking at this top section here. They're not really going to scroll down the page and look at all that. All right. So that kind of covers the A+ content. You also get access to that subscribe and save and Prime Pantry. It's always difficult to say Prime Pantry, where you can have like monthly subscriptions to consumable products like dish detergent or Kleenex or just about any other household good that you can think of. You do get access to the Amazon Vine program. Amazon Vine is where Amazon consumers are who are very active in the community and leave a lot of reviews. They're given free products in exchange for an honest and unbiased review. You can get this still through the seller program by taking advantage of Facebook groups or programs like we oftentimes recommend and use SnagShout for this purpose, where you can still get reviews on your product and give them away at a discount. So that's not, I don't think it's a really huge pro, but it's just basically Amazon's own program to do that.
Yeah, and those reviews that have the Amazon Vine, they kind of prioritize those because they're special people with really good review rates, or they're really well liked or marked helpful reviews, and those are the people that kind of get invited to the customers that get invited into that Vine program, and it has a little Vine stamp next to each of their different reviews that they have on there. But through the Vendor Central framework, the way you do that is you present to Amazon in the Vendor Central login area, hey, I got these items that I'd like to put into the Vine program. You say how many you have, which ones you want. Say this is what I'd like to do. The Amazon Vine team reviews what you have and says, okay, we'll take those products from you that you're not charging us for and put them out there. So it actually is free product you're giving away that then Amazon gives away if they think it's good enough to do and put into the Vine program. Those are important extra items to know about.
Excellent. You also get access to Amazon Marketing Services, which is where you can create a lot more rich ads, like banner ads at the top of result pages when people search for your type of product. But again, the kind of results that you get from that kind of varies.
Right. And in the Seller Central framework, there's only certain areas your ads can come up in because you can do the pay-per-click through there. You can also do pay-per-click through Vendor Central, but because you're in Vendor Central, you have access to larger banner ads and some different areas of the page that the folks in Seller Central don't have access to. But the interesting thing to note is in the pay-per-click or some of these advanced marketing things that are there, you don't have access to a lot of data about what's been happening with the pay-per-click in terms of keyword content, which is important to know. And that Amazon Marketing Services also does give you some access to customizing the keywords for your products, but if you're not in that program, you can't do that through Vendor Central. But you can't really gather data and assess the data and look at the conversion rates and click-through rates and all that other stuff like you can in the Seller Central side. So they do have some built-in limitations on that side for access of data, but at the same time, they do have the benefits of getting into areas that you can't on the other side. I thought those were extra, really important items to review.
Absolutely.
Let's hear about vendor premium services.
Well, I
Yeah,
had a
so-
question.
Sure, go ahead,
Sure.
Robin.
Do you get more space for text getting with this A+ content, or do you have the same amount of space for text?
Well, that's where, Tim, go back to the page, because I think that's the one with the mouse that you had up a moment ago.
Yes, right here.
So this section that you see in front of you, Robin, you get your 5 bullet points there. You get your up to 8 pictures off to the left of the main photo there. You get your title, which is at the top. That's basically everybody gets access to that, regardless of which framework you're in. And Tim, go ahead and scroll down the page. You have your standard description area, which you can write a lot of stuff here. This particular item only has like 1 line of text. You can actually put several lines of text, and if you're on the Seller Central side, you could actually put breaks between paragraphs and things like that. The area that you get access to with A+, and which is huge compared to what you get through Seller Central, huge in terms of the amount of additional area you get, is from the manufacturer, starting with this banner, and all the way down this and scrolling down, Tim, all this, all that stuff, and I've seen pages like 3 or 4 times longer than this. This is what you get through A+ versus what everybody else through Seller Central gets. So it's additional area to put content on the page, but in the world of Amazon, it doesn't mean you're going to sell anymore. And I know, Robin really focuses on the SEO division of our business and how we rank on Google. Well, what's interesting is, this customization, this actually brings up another interesting point. This area of the A+ content could possibly get you a lot more ranking benefit on Google, but it definitely doesn't affect the ranking benefit on Amazon by anywhere near as a degree as a lot of other things that work for the algorithm and ranking on Amazon. So there is some of those different distinctions, and it's important to know, okay, well, if I did this, does it actually help me anywhere else other than Amazon? And I would say the answer is yes, because you can actually get a little bit more keyword heavy with some, because you're able to expand on the amount of content that's on that page. You can customize the image names, I would imagine, because it's rendering out as HTML. So there's a lot of additional things you could do on these pages that could help you maybe rank in Google better. Robin, does that help answer your question?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Excellent. All right, then we'll move into the vendor premium services. Vendor premium services are where basically you can pay Amazon to have them craft all your different pages and bullet points and titles, and they can do other things like help merge listings if there's duplicates out there. They can also set up variation listings where, if you have one product that varies by color or by size, they can help you set that up. But that is something that you have to pay for. But it just basically is something that can help you enhance your listings even more with the help from Amazon directly.
Let's get into those cons here.
Yes. So that's all well and good. Vendor Central looks like it's got a lot of advantages, but it also has a lot of disadvantages. So Paul alluded to this earlier. There is limited analytics and reporting that you really get through Vendor Central. It seems like you're left guessing and wondering how exactly things are doing through the vendor program, and that's because you really don't get access directly to the consumer information.
And this is where what I was alluding to before is pertaining to the pay-per-click, which is just one subsection of this limited analytics data and reporting. In the Seller Central, you could actually see each of my products, what the conversion rate is over certain periods of time, and all sorts of really detailed information about each of your different products, each variation of those products, and that's essentially just missing completely. So you don't get a lot of that data that would be really helpful in helping you customize your approach of how you're going to create listings on Amazon to increase your presence and revenue.
All right. Amazon has to approve all your changes before they go live on the websites. So if you want to change one minor thing in a title, you basically have to change it, submit it to Amazon, then wait for them to be able to approve those changes.
And that's an important distinction because on the Seller Central side, if you're in the brand registry program, essentially any change you make goes live within 15 minutes or so. And this process is much, much more long to actually get the final outcome you're looking for.
The next con is that after you submit what products that you have and they're all live on Amazon, Amazon will then request inventory from you. So you have no control over deciding how much inventory goes into Amazon. Amazon dictates that.
So basically, the way it works is Amazon submits a purchase order to you for the items that they want, and those come in on a Monday, and then you got a couple days to get everything together and send it into them. And you can't say, well, I really think that this is going to be a great product. You could probably email them. In fact, you can. You can email them and say, you know, this is a really popular product. But your ability to really influence that through them is fairly limited. A lot of what they do is automated by computer algorithms and stuff like that, and those computer algorithms aren't going to see what you're doing with your particular products outside of the Amazon sale channel. So let's say you have one really, really popular product that you're doing so well with in some of your retail customers, and you're like, this thing would just do so well on Amazon, and you say it's available and they're not ordering it for whatever reason, you can't do anything about that. So that's a huge con here. If you know you got a huge money product and you want to get it out there on Amazon's framework in front of millions of people, being in the Vendor Central framework doesn't guarantee that you'll be able to do that in any sort of timely manner. Which brings us right into turnaround time. Go ahead, Tim.
Right. Yeah, so Amazon has very strict and fast turnaround times for a lot of the processes, and this includes turnaround time to accept purchase orders whenever they submit them to you. Paul also said that you got to ship the stuff out in usually 2 to 3 days. So if it's a rather large order, you basically are working your warehouse full time trying to get that one shipment together, only to have to do it again next week. And you won't know what you are going to be shipping in until Monday, and it's got to all be shipped in a couple days later. Anytime there's any revision to any kind of agreements with Amazon, they usually only give you a couple of days or possibly a week to be able to review it and accept it. Otherwise, it's no longer valid. And there's just other instances where you end up getting penalized if you don't do these things in a timely manner.
Which will bring us into those non-compliance fees in a couple of bullets here.
Yeah, so the next... sorry, Robin, it sounded like you had a question.
Yeah, I was going to ask, if you have all this extra inventory, is Amazon okay with you making another listing that you can control while that listing's still going?
No, you're only allowed one listing per item. So, yeah, it's against Amazon's policy to be able to create a duplicate listing on their platform whatsoever.
However, you could sell against the same listing on Seller Central while you still have it available on Vendor Central.
Yep.
And that's a nuance of being involved in both, right? So that's what I was hearing from Robin. But Tim's right. If you just, hey, I'm going to create some other listing that's the same thing out there, it happens all the time. So it is a violation of Amazon's policy. It happens all the time, and that's why a lot of manufacturers are merging all those together. So this way we kind of have one true listing. But if you want to sell something, but Amazon isn't ordering it from you, you can open a seller account and sell it against that listing. So this way you can make it available on your own. So that makes you have that flexibility in the Seller Central framework. You don't in the Vendor Central.
All right, so the next one is Amazon sets prices and promotions. So we already kind of covered the whole idea that the pricing on Amazon is all set by them if you are in the vendor program. But what's a little bit more detailed is the promotions part of it. If Amazon decides that they want to discount your product because it's not selling very well, they will just go ahead and do it and run a promotion on it and then charge you the difference. So you really don't have control over any kind of promotions and any kind of discounts that Amazon decides to give, and just passes off the cost to you as a vendor.
So the next one is the non-compliance fees. And Tim,
yeah, so if you
I gotta say, go ahead, Tim. I gotta give some examples on this one.
Oh yeah. So, if you don't get a purchase order acknowledged in time, you get assessed a fee. If you don't prep everything correctly, you get assessed a fee. If you are late shipping product in, you're assessed a fee. Getting a pattern here. So basically, you just do any small thing wrong, Amazon will assess you a fee because something wasn't done 100% correctly.
And it isn't really intuitive in the Vendor Central framework to know where you're getting charged the fees or what you're getting charged the fees from unless you really dig. We have some clients that I have one particular client in mind that lost 20 grand in a year in fees just for being non-compliant on just little things here and there. And it was just being offset from their payments, which Tim is going to talk about how slow those are in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But it was being offset from their payments, and they were just looking at, okay, what is Amazon sending in, and not really evaluating, because Amazon doesn't give you detail on why those offsets are happening. They just say it's fees, and it doesn't say that necessarily they're non-compliance related. Well, if you dig, you could find out that a lot of those fees are because you're doing something that's not exactly right. So you need to identify what those things are and fix them, whether it's how you prep the product, whether it's being late on sending it in, or any number of different things that you might be doing wrong. Even if you miss that 2-day window for sending in a PO, not only do you not get paid for that product by Amazon buying it, you also pay a fee for not sending it in. So it's almost like a double whammy in that case. So let's talk about those slow payments, Tim.
Yeah, so those fees get assessed to you immediately, but the payments to get to you, so they're very, very slow. And basically what happens is Amazon has a running balance of where you're at, and you have to submit an invoice to Amazon to get paid for items, and usually they're really slow to be able to pay on those invoices.
In fact, on some of those invoices you submit to Amazon, you have to reconcile with the BOL that they provide you at the very beginning when they're requesting the PO. But if you don't reconcile it yourself in the framework, you might not be getting paid on some of those different things that you should be getting paid on, which is another thing to be really 100% in line with, that you have a system to make sure that that's constantly being done so your money's coming in.
All right, well, the next thing we're going to talk about is Seller Central pros and cons, but I don't know if we want to take a quick break here to talk a little bit about Amazon before we move on to the rest of this.
Terry, would you like to do our commercial? And Tim, would you share Robin's screen, please?
Absolutely.
I thought you'd never ask. So, as you probably have figured, if you didn't know it before you came on the webinar today, one of the things Awesome Dynamic does is help Amazon sellers. We have several different consulting models and full serve models that are available. We're also always there to do a customized program for you to either help people get on Amazon or to get them on the right program and to just clean up their listings and whatever it takes to make them more successful in their Amazon ventures. And something that's been a big part of our business and is getting a lot of traction. So we'd love to talk to anybody who's interested in that. And as you see our 800 number up there, 238-1811, or you can reach out to me, Terry, at awesomedynamic.com. Other things we like to do here at Awesome Dynamic is bring you new targeted customers. So we can do that in a couple different ways. We work with responsive web design. Make sure you have a great website that will look good on any different type of medium that someone's using, whether it be a tablet, a phone, or a nice big computer screen, and make it look good and help you bring in those targeted customers. SEO services. We have a great website. Now let's get people to it. So that's all about getting you new targeted customers. We've seen it demonstrated time and time again on our own when we finally got around to doing some of our own SEO, and we have people calling us from all over the country on a regular basis, and it's just great to see how it works, and we'd love to be able to help you have the same kind of results. So again, 800-238-1811 or Terry at awesomedynamic.com. So those are different ways that we can help you improve your business by either getting you on Amazon, helping you with Amazon, or working on your website and search engine optimization to drive those new customers your way and turn them from lookers into buyers. So that is the quick rundown, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other things on our website when we get to the end here, but let's get right back into our presentation. Tim.
Thank you very much, Terry. All right, Seller Central pros and cons. So, a couple of the pros right off the bat with Seller Central is it's available to everyone. You don't have to be invited into the program as long as you have a U.S. bank account and you have a U.S. address. And I don't even think that's a requirement much anymore. But you can pretty much join the Seller program, the Seller Central program, as at any time. Another big pro is you have a lot more direct control over your listings. And that's in conjunction with that brand registry program, which is the next bullet point here. The brand registry program is what in Seller Central gives you the authority to have full control over your listings. So you got to keep in mind that the listing pages belong to Amazon. They're not your listing pages. So what that means is that if there's a product on Amazon, they basically give every person that sells that product a vote into how that product page should be displayed. So what will happen is, let's say if you took a lot of time and effort to put great looking photos, great description and everything else on the listing, and someone else comes in and they contribute different information than you did, then Amazon may take their information over your information. There's a lot of things that go into determining exactly whose information Amazon will use for the live listing, but getting registered in the brand registry will help ensure that any product that is under your brand and your category is fully controlled by you.
One quick note on that brand registry that kind of drives people insane sometimes when they have a product on Amazon and the pictures are changing, the bullets are changing, the description is changing because they got all these people trying to list against that one listing, and Amazon's taking all that data, aggregating it, and kind of making a decision of what it thinks is best, and you can eliminate that issue by being in the brand registry program very easily. Typically, you should have a trademark to do that, but there are some different ways to get the brand registry without a trademark.
That's correct. All right, rich analytics. We alluded to this again earlier, where with Vendor Central you kind of get limited results from keyword analysis for ad campaigns, and you just don't really know a lot about what exactly is going on with your product on Amazon. Whereas with Seller Central, you have a lot more reports that you can pull from, more analytics. And the only way that you can really get that from Vendor Central is by paying for premium analytics, I believe it's called. And so that's something that you just get as a pro seller on Seller Central.
And that includes that PPC data that I talked about earlier that can give you a lot of data about what keywords people are using to find your products, which keywords are resulting in purchases, which is super valuable to take and then bring back and optimize your listings so this way they come up more prominently in organic searches without the PPC. There's one other point that I want to go back to in the brand registry. It also allows you, unless it's changed very recently, to avoid having UPCs for every single one of your products being in the brand registry.
Yes, not in all categories, but most categories you can designate what's called the unique identifier, or the key attribute is what it's called. And you can designate that the model number of the product is the key attribute, or the catalog number. There's a lot of different things that you can identify your product uniquely, and that basically precludes you from having to use UPCs for all your products. All right. So this next point that's already up here, seller creates shipments. So you as a seller get to decide exactly what inventory you want to send in. Pretty straightforward and simple. You just go into the seller platform, you create a new shipment inbound to Amazon, and you designate exactly what you want to send in. Then Amazon just simply tells you, okay, well, we're going to send some of those here and some of those there. You even have the option sometimes of sending them all into one location, either through using Amazon's distribution program or by case packing your products so that everything all stays in one nice case. But it just basically makes it so you can really plan ahead and be able to ship everything in when you want to.
And what Tim was just describing is if you're using the FBA program under Seller Central.
Yes.
If you're doing the fulfillment by merchant, you actually must ship to the customer, if you don't change the settings, within 1 business day of receiving, 1 or 2 business days of receiving that order. And you'll get a little email that says sold now, shipped now, all in caps. And you got to get that product out. Some people do go in and change the amount of handling time they need to get the product out. The longer you make it, the less likely people are going to buy from you. Or they find out that they're going to be getting this much later and they cancel their order because they're going to just go find another one that they can get faster. I've done that many times myself. Like, what do you mean I got to wait 2 weeks for this? I want it in 2 days, just like everything else on Amazon. So that can be something to think about. But regardless of which side you're on the FBA side, you're sending all your product into Amazon. You get to take advantage of really low UPS rates. They get the biggest discount with UPS to send in things into Amazon, upwards of 70%. So it's really cheap to send product in bulk to Amazon, and then they do the fulfillment. Or if you're doing the self-fulfillment, then you're going to be fulfilling those orders yourself. So you're creating the shipments regardless of what side you're on. And we always recommend going with FBA, and we have a whole nother webinar and blog on that you should check out on our website. But FBA is what we always recommend, and if it makes sense. And what I mean by that, if it's not temperature sensitive, if it meets all the Amazon guidelines,
Liquids.
Liquids. There's certain things that you can't do in there, but if you can, do it because you're going to rank significantly higher. Amazon gives a lot of favor to products that are in FBA versus self-fulfillment.
Very good points. So very big difference to Vendor Central is that with Seller Central, you get your payments very fast. You get paid out every 2 weeks. It's like a paycheck, without fail. Sometimes Amazon will go out of cycle and will issue you a payment earlier than normal, but it will. I've never experienced a situation where it's been anything later than 2 weeks.
Yeah, so you're always consistently every 2 weeks direct deposit in your checking account, unless of course your account gets suspended, in which case you're not getting any money. But that's a whole other issue too, where if you follow the rules, you'll be fine. If you try and walk the gray line or go onto the dark side, they could just lock down your account with all your money and all your inventory. But so long as you're following the rules, everything's copacetic, you're going to get that payment every 2 weeks without fail, and even early in some cases.
The other one thing that I want to note on here is that there's a community around Seller Central because there's so many sellers who all want to help each other and be successful. There's a lot of people that you can go to for help. You have to do the legwork, and you still have to learn it all yourself, and that's kind of where we come in because we have done all that legwork and we belong to a lot of these different communities. We can parse a lot of the information for you, but there's seller forums, there's Facebook communities, there's Reddit, there's podcasts about selling on Amazon. So there's just a lot more information out there about Seller Central than there is about Vendor Central.
One cautionary item there, we have another webinar where we talk with Ted Limas, who's an Amazon attorney, specializes in Amazon. And he alluded to on the webinar we did with him that a lot of the information that's out there in these different seller community forums isn't necessarily accurate. And in fact, he said some of the information that's out there can actually get you into trouble legally. So it's important to understand that just because it's out there in the seller community doesn't mean it is the right thing to do. So understanding that distinction and also getting the correct advice from your Amazon professional is always a good thing to do. To make sure you're doing the right thing and not putting yourself in a sticky situation.
And I guess that's.
Are you telling me that everything you see online is not true?
I think I am, Terry.
Oh my God!
Robin,
All
would you say that's the case?
I don't know. I just thought that's where we were headed. So no, I'm just glad you cleared that up for us.
If it's online, it must be true.
Right.
You can't make that assumption for sure.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. And I wanted to kind of expand on that just one little bit more. There's a lot better and there's more help documentation available to you through Seller Central than there is in Vendor Central. Vendor Central just seems to be very sparse with help documentation, and it seems like most of the time to get answers to what you want, you have to open cases with them or give them a call. Whereas with Seller Central, a lot of the information and fees and all the information is in plain black and white text. You just got to know how to find it and research it. And of course, the biggest pro I think of doing Seller Central is you get those retail profit margins. You get to sell it for how much you want to.
You want more of these?
You
better share it.
What was that, Paul? Yeah, there you go.
Want more of these? You got to be in Seller Central. That's where you make the retail profit margin. You might need to do a little bit of cleanup to eliminate some of your competition on there. The people you sell to are also selling against your product listings. But if you get the situation just right, you can make a lot of money through the Seller Central framework, and you don't get those opportunities in the Vendor Central framework.
You control your destiny a lot more.
Exactly. Not just two of those, like millions of them.
Yeah. I thought it was just two we've done so far. So. All right, we'll go through the cons. There's not many of them, in our opinion, of doing Seller Central. One is you do kind of have limited listing details that you can add. That kind of gets back to the whole being able to add the A+ content with the rich listings and the videos. But as we said, in our experience, that really doesn't make that big of a difference. You have no access to the vendor programs like Vine, Amazon Marketing Services, Subscribe and Save. Although they are starting to bring some of those programs now into Seller Central, like we talked about Seller Fulfilled Prime earlier. That was only a Vendor Central thing, but now it's available on Seller Central. My understanding is that some of the Subscribe and Save stuff may be coming to Seller Central soon. So, I think that things are changing with the things that you're limited on in Seller Central. And you only get simple pay-per-click ads, like we said before, with Vendor Central and Amazon Marketing Services. You get the ability to be able to create banner ads and be able to have them placed in different locations, which may be a benefit.
Even with that only simple PPC ads, you do get all that keyword research data, which is just invaluable. Yes. And not only do we concentrate on a lot of keyword-related stuff for the SEO division of our business, it can be hugely important. Just using the right keyword to come up for the right items, right searches, and Amazon can make all the difference of whether or not you're selling versus not selling.